you ever gazed up at the moon, its pale glow cutting through the darkness, and felt something stir inside you? A strange pull, a flicker of wonder, or perhaps even unease. For the Inuit of the Arctic, that feeling is not imagined. The moon is not just a lifeless rock in the sky, it is alive. It is a hunter, a pursuer, a reminder that even the heavens carry stories of desire, betrayal, and an endless chase. In the frozen silence of the Arctic, where nights stretch on for months and the stars blaze brighter than anywhere else on Earth, the people looked upward and saw not just light, but memory. They saw Igaluk, the Moon Man. His glow, sometimes full and bold, sometimes faint and slivered, told more than the passage of time. It told of a crime, a pursuit, and a tragedy carved forever into the sky. This is the tale of Igaluk, one of the most haunting and enduring figures in Inuit cosmic mythology, an eternal story written in light and shadow.
Long before he became the moon, Igaluk was a man of the earth. Among his people, he was known as a powerful hunter, swift on the ice, skilled with his weapons, and unyielding against the cold. His footsteps followed the caribou, his kayak skimmed the frigid waters, and his hands pulled seals from beneath the frozen sea. He lived, as all Inuit, close to the rhythms of nature, bound to the cycles of darkness and light. But in the myths, there is more to Igaluk than his strength. He was restless, driven, a man who carried within him a fire that no hunt could quench. That hunger would not lead him to glory, it would shape his fate in the heavens. The storytellers say that when his human life shattered under the weight of forbidden desire, Igaluk was no longer bound to the earth. Instead, the cosmos claimed him. He rose into the night sky, transformed not into a hero, nor into a spirit of victory, but into something hauntingly eternal, the glowing moon. His light would guide hunters and travelers in the darkness, yet his very presence was a reminder of his shame. The moon became both a gift and a warning, a cosmic being who could never rest, never be at peace. Igaluk's story at its heart is not one of triumph. It is a myth of longing that could never be fulfilled, of broken bonds that could never be repaired, and of a chase that has no end. Long before the roar of snowmobiles or the glow of electric lights, an Inuit village thrived on the tundra, a tight-knit community where survival depended on seal oil, cooperation, and trust. In that world lived a brother and sister, Igaluk and Malina. Both were strong, clever, and admired. Winter nights stretched endlessly, and when a dance feast was called, the people gathered in the communal karmak. The lamps glowed dimly, faces were smeared with soot, and the dancers moved in darkness, guided only by rhythm and touch. It was meant to be playful anonymity, but in that darkness, a boundary was broken. Malina, full of laughter, felt a hand at her waist. At first, she thought it was harmless fun. Then came the grip, harder, more possessive, and the whisper, sharp and familiar, in her ear. It was her brother's voice. In that instant, everything shattered. The festive shadows became a nightmare. And when the lamps were lit again, Malina saw Igaluk's face streaked with soot and shame, his eyes already avoiding hers. Betrayal and fury burned within her, fierce enough to sear the soul. In the Arctic, such a crime was more than personal. It was a wound against the very fabric of kinship. The law was absolute: exile into the frozen night, or blood in return. But Malina chose another path. In her rage and despair, she seized a torch, its flame blazing defiantly against the cold. Then, in a shocking act of will, she cut away her own breasts with an ulu knife, swearing that no man would ever claim her again. Screaming into the night, she ran. Her torch blazed like a comet, scattering sparks into the sky. Igaluk, struck with horror at what he had done, gave chase, clutching his own torch. His pursuit was not love, but desperation, not devotion, but shame. They ran so fiercely that the snow itself seemed to melt beneath their feet. At last, at the edge of the world, Malina leapt upward, her torch held high. The wind caught her flame, lifting her into the heavens where she blazed as the sun, radiant and untouchable. Igaluk lunged after her, but he was too late. Still, the same powerful wind carried him upward, and he became the moon, his torch dimmer, his light weaker, forever trailing behind. And so the story was written into the sky itself. Malina leapt upward as Sekinik, the sun, brilliant, untouchable, her light both life-giving and fierce. She is not only warmth but warning, blazing across the heavens as a symbol of power that cannot be approached. Igaluk became Takik, the moon. Paler, colder, forever carrying his own fragile torch. His light waxes and wanes, echoing the weight of his shame. When his flame burns bright, when he dares to draw close to her, we see the full moon, radiant and whole. But when the guilt overwhelms him, when the memory of his act consumes his spirit, his light shrinks away, receding to a sliver, until the sky swallows him entirely in darkness. That is the new moon, when he hides in the void, gathering the courage to face her fire once more. And so, in the chase, Malina, the sun, runs ahead, bringing warmth and life. Igaluk, the moon, follows endlessly, his light waxing and waning with his strength, but he can never reach her, bound for eternity to his transgression, chasing a sister who will never let him close again. On certain nights, the moon turns red. To science, it is an eclipse, the Earth's shadow cast across the lunar face. But to the Inuit storytellers, it is something far more unsettling. In those rare, awe-striking moments, the moon man, Igaluk, burning with shame and desire, chasing his sister Malina with a passion so fierce that even the heavens glow with the stain of his guilt, and is said he almost catches her. For an instant, he reaches across the void, desperate for forgiveness, or perhaps simply to touch what he has lost. Yet Malina flares with greater brilliance, shoving him back into the shadows, reminding him of the chasm between them. The red hue is not gentle light, it is fire. It is the torch he carries, flaring wildly, fueled by his torment and his longing. The people say this is when Igaluk runs hardest, straining across the sky in a desperate bid to close the distance between himself and the sun. His torch, in those moments, blazes not just with light, but with the heat of his transgression. For the Inuit, the blood moon is no cause for wonder alone. It is a warning, a reminder that broken bonds and forbidden acts carry consequences that echo forever. The scarlet light paints the heavens as a lesson in morality, visible to every eye turned upward. Respect, restraint, the sacred laws of kinship. These are not human rules alone, but cosmic laws, etched into the very cycles of the sky. So when the moon glows red, it is not only the Earth's shadow we see. It is Igaluk's shame, an unending pursuit, a cosmic punishment, and a haunting sign that the vastness of space cannot conceal the consequences of betrayal. Day and night, waxing and waning, are not mere cycles of nature. They are the echo of this eternal chase. Two celestial beings locked in a cosmic restraining order, circling one another in pursuit and evasion. A story written in starlight and shadow, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, betrayal leaves scars that can never truly heal. Some storytellers call him a Ningen or a Lignac, names that shift across Inuit lands, but the meaning remains the same. The moon man who chases and the sun woman who flees, forever bound in a myth that explains both the heavens above and the fragility of the human heart. The story of Igaluk and Malina is not merely a tale of siblings turned celestial bodies. It is also a reflection of the Inuit worldview, a worldview where the cosmos is not distant, but intimately tied to human survival. The moon is not just decoration in the night sky, it is a guide. Its cycles mark time, tides, and seasons. To Inuit hunters, Igaluk's changing face was a living almanac. A waxing moon, when Igaluk grew bolder, meant good visibility for nighttime seal hunts, the icy world illuminated just enough to navigate with confidence. A waning moon, when Igaluk shrank away in shame, warned hunters to stay closer to home, to mend their tools, or prepare for darker days ahead. Elders, wise keepers of tradition, still pass this knowledge to the next generation. They remind their grandchildren, if you track caribou when Igaluk is thin, you'll get lost in his darkness. It is both a literal warning about visibility and a metaphorical one about reckless choices, a reminder that ignoring cosmic rhythms invites misfortune. But the myth's power is etched into more than just words. In carvings of precious walrus ivory, artists captured the eternal chase. A man pursuing a woman, their faces stretched between longing and horror. These images are not only art, but cosmic memory, passed down in material form. And what's remarkable is how far the myth reaches. Even modern science has, knowingly or not, paid tribute to its endurance. When NASA's New Horizons team mapped Pluto, they named its largest crater Igaluk, an alternate name for Igaluk. It was an acknowledgement across centuries and cultures that the Moon Man's story is as enduring as the stars themselves. Inuit storytelling festivals, especially in Nunavut, still open with this tale. Not just for entertainment, but because it remains a living guide, a reminder of balance, kinship, and the laws that must never be broken. Together, the moon and the sun embody the balance of darkness and light, male and female, desire and distance, pursuit and resistance. Their chase across the sky explains not only the heavens, but also the human heart, passion and restraint, mistakes and lessons, shame and endurance. In Igaluk's eternal pursuit, we find more than tragedy. We find a cosmic blueprint connecting human life to the animate universe, where every flicker of light in the sky carries meaning for those who know how to read it. On the surface, the tale of Igaluk and Malina is an origin story, a captivating explanation for why the sun and moon move as they do. But dig deeper, and it becomes clear that this myth is so much more, a sophisticated survival guide, encoded in drama. Life in the Arctic hinges on cycles that are as intricate as they are unforgiving. The migrations of seals, the vital roots of caribou, the perilous freeze and thaw of the sea ice. By personifying the sun and the moon, by giving them human emotions and weaving them into a tragic chase, the Inuit made these natural rhythms unforgettable and deeply personal. After all, it is easier to remember the phases of the moon when they are tied to a brother's shame and his relentless pursuit of his sister. But this myth is more than survival. It is also psychology, an ancient way of confronting what cannot always be spoken. Igaluk's transgression is not shrouded. It is placed boldly in the sky for all to see. In doing so, the culture found a way to address taboos like abuse within families without turning every hearth into a trial. By framing the punishment as cosmic exile, an endless, inescapable chase, the community underscored the seriousness of betrayal and the unbreakable laws of kinship. It was narrative justice, eternal and inescapable. The relentless pursuit itself mirrors the land, breathtaking in its beauty, but also stark, merciless, and unforgiving to anyone who dares break its codes of respect. This story, then, isn't only about what happened, it is about what must not happen, and the immense cosmic price paid when those boundaries are crossed. It teaches us that the consequences of our actions can ripple outward, reshaping not only human lives, but the very universe around us. And so, through countless generations, the story of Igaluk has been whispered under starlit skies and carried forward by elders as a lesson in balance, respect, and survival. From ancient carvings to modern storytelling festivals in Nunavut, it has endured. Even in today's world, its presence lingers, echoing in scientific names like Pluto's great crater Igaluk, or in the continued reverence of Inuit communities who see the moon not only as light, but as memory. Igaluk remains one of the most vivid figures in Inuit lore, a moon that hunts, desires, and warns. A moon that teaches survival, enforces justice, and reminds us of the fragile bonds that hold families and communities together. The chase of the sun and moon, then, is not simply written in the heavens. It is written in the human heart, a living story of cosmic proportions that still guides, warns, and inspires across time. Today, when painful realities like domestic violence or incest surface, we turn to courts, law enforcement, and professional counselors. These are the structures of the modern world. But for traditional Inuit societies, where prisons didn't exist and justice was carried not in institutions but in stories, myths like that of Igaluk and Malina were the law, the therapy, and the warning. The message was unflinching. Harm your own, betray that sacred trust of family, and you lose everything. The warmth of community, the safety of the land, even your rightful place beneath the sky. The punishment was not only social, it was cosmic. And here's the remarkable part. This is not just an artifact of the past. Across the Arctic today, Inuit organizations working to heal the deep wounds of intergenerational trauma still return to this story. In healing circles, the tale of Igaluk's shame and exile becomes a mirror for modern pain, a way to name what is often too heavy to carry alone. Think about that. A 3,000-year-old myth, a chase etched in starlight, still guiding people toward recovery in the 21st century. It resonates because it speaks a universal truth that acts of violence within families tear at the very fabric of community, and that healing requires not silence, but story. In this way, Igaluk and Malina continue to do what they always have. They remind us of boundaries, of respect, of the terrible cost of breaking trust. But they also offer a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern resilience, between cosmic tragedy and human healing. Look up at the night sky, see the sun slip away and the moon take its place. They are not just orbs of fire and stone, not simply light against darkness. They are Igaluk and Malina, brother and sister, locked in a pursuit older than memory itself. When you glimpse a crescent moon trailing the sunset, pause for a moment. Hear Igaluk's footsteps, frantic, remorseful, eternal. See Malina's fire, brilliant and unyielding, forever keeping him at bay. Their chase is tragic, yes, but also essential. Without it, we would have no compass in the night, no calendar etched into the sky, no living reminder of the boundaries that hold families and communities together. The Inuit knew this. Their myth is both a cosmic map and a moral code, a tale that burns as brightly now as it did beneath the first Arctic skies. For every waxing moon that lights the hunter's path, for every eclipse that darkens the world in fleeting dread, the story whispers its warning. Betrayal leaves scars not just on people, but on the very fabric of the universe. And so, the chase continues. Malina blazing ahead, Igaluk stumbling behind, their story carved into the heavens, painted across the eternal Arctic night. It is not only a myth of the Inuit, it is a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, our need for justice, and the eternal cost of broken trust. As long as the sun and moon rise, so too will their story live on, glowing nightly, whether we choose to look or not.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.